He went 7-0 double draw into the top 8. 7-0, 14-0 double draw. Playing against Joe Bernal, playing Esper Stoneblade. Joe, we've seen quite a bit here, especially when we do come to the Midwest. He's always playing some sort of Esper strategy based around Stoneforge, Mystic. A lot of basics because he does have a back to basics in his sideboard. Also just wants to be Wasteland proof. However, having those basics in this matchup probably doesn't help him too much.
Yeah, it's not going to really matter, although we kind of saw him on camera, and Shroud and I were talking about how his deck seems actually pretty well suited for this particular metagame because he has a lot of counter spells. He has 3 Flusterstorms main, 2 counter spells, and then 4 Force of Will, along with a lot of anti-creature spells like Supreme Verdict and Engineering Explosives main. So even though Engineering Explosives won't be relevant in this particular matchup, Supreme Verdict certainly can be. So I actually think that even though typically I'd say Sneak and Show is probably a little bit favored against Esper Blade, I'd say Joe has a pretty good shot at winning this game.
Todd going to start off with the Ataxian Probe. Draw Show and Tell off of the Probe. You see a Brainstorm there as well. He's got an Emrakul, also has a Gristlebrand in his hand, so a pretty good hand here for Anderson. Picked up the information from the Probe and move forward accordingly. Bernal going to play an Island. See if he has any action on his turn. Of course, when we do have updates for you guys, we'll let you know exactly what does happen in other matches, as Anderson does draw a copy of Volcanic Island, but it looks like he may lead off with a Brainstorm here. And of course, after this game, we will bring it back to the booth. First of 3 trivia questions for the evening. This one will be for 3 months, semis will be for 6, and the finals will be for 12, as Todd will cast that Brainstorm.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Joe kept this hand because it looks pretty weak, particularly in this matchup. I think he did not mulligan. So, I mean, he's got swords. I think he's got 2 copies of True Name in his hand, along with the Jace. None of those cards are particularly effective in this matchup. You really can't afford to just tap out for True Name on turn 3. So, it's a pretty, I'd say it's a little sketchy hand, a little sketchy keep for this particular matchup. Obviously, he knows what he's playing against. So you might have to mulligan a little bit aggressively, given the nature of your deck. But we'll see how this pans out for him.
Anderson going to resolve this Brainstorm. You saw the cards that he picked up. Spell Pierce, City of Traders, another land. I wanted to get some information about how he wanted to go. The other land was a Polluted Delta, so he's able to put 2 cards back. He can play a Delta, sacrifice it, make it a perfect Brainstorm. He's got the Spell Pierce at the ready. The next turn he can play City of Traders with Spell Pierce back up. So he's going to pass the turn after playing that Delta. Bernal's going to draw a card here.
Yeah, the concern for Todd is if he just casts Sneak and Show, or Show and Tell rather, and just puts an Emrakul into play, Joe can put a land into play, and then he'll be able to ramp to 4 mana to get adjacent to play and just bounce Emrakul. Although Todd does have a Grizzlebrand, so he might just decide to go for it and just draw a bunch of cards.
Todd taking a pretty conservative line here. Thought maybe he would try to go for it on that particular turn to cast the Show and Tell. Maybe he's trying maybe set a trap here for Bernal to walk into. Ideally, he would like Joe to actually tap some mana so that when he does tap mana to do something, his Spell Pierce can actually counter Force Will. Because right now, if he goes for Show and Tell, he has the 2 necessary mana to pay for Force Will.
Yeah. If you're Todd, though, you know Joe's deck list. The thing you have to be concerned about is Joe drawing a Flusterstorm. You don't really have a lot of cards in your hand that kind of help accelerate your draw. You don't have cards like Brainstorm or Ponder. You don't really have a lot of other action. So I think if you're Todd, you're a little concerned about giving to Joe too much time to draw something good. And Joe's kind of a pretty good player. I wouldn't expect him to just tap out for True Name, but then again, it looks like that is in fact what he's going to do. Maybe because he knows that he has a Jace in his hand. So if Todd does go, pretty much the only thing he has to be afraid of is Show and Tell into Sneak Attack.
Yeah. Anderson is going to sacrifice that Polluted Delta. The other thing, too, we talk about the Jace. If Bernal off the Show and Tell puts a land into play, because you can't put Jace into play, because you can't put Planeswalkers in, and then, Bernal plays maybe another land and tries to cast Jace, Todd has the ability to Spell Pierce that, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so I think that's what Todd has to be cognizant of. He knows about the Jace through the Gataxian Probe, so it's really a matter of, am I going to be able to counter the Jace when he tries to counter it, so the Emrakul can go the way. Right now, Joe's at 3 mana. So I think Todd might try to go for it this turn. Again, he can't really wait too much longer. And there's a Force,
That makes it easy.
That makes it a lot easier here.
Anderson going to play City of Traders. He's going to tap 3. I wonder what this could be for. It's going to be a Show and Tell. Todd ready to have a battle over this resolving. And I have to imagine this is going to be Gristlebrand he puts into play.
Yeah, this is perfect because Gristlebrand can come into play and he can draw a bunch of cards. He has the Spell Pierce already. He just needs another blue card that he can pitch to Force of Will.
Now, let's not forget just one thing here. Since Todd is at 17, Gristlebrand can draw 14. That puts him at 3, though, and then True Name can come through. So he has to be a little bit careful how many times he does activate this. Bernal looks like he's going to allow the Show and Tell to resolve. Has no counter spell. You see him set a card face down. Going to go with a Flooded Strand. Anderson going to decide which threat he wants to put into play. Is it Gristlebrand or will it be the Emrakul?
And the other thing to notice, too, is that Bernal does have a Swords to Plowshare in his hand. So that's another card that can potentially deal with the Grizzlebrand. So if he has a 4th land here, and then he plays a 5th land in his turn, he can go Jace and Swords to Plowshare. Todd does have a Spell Pierce, and if he just gets another blue card, he should be able to force it. So Todd's still sitting pretty good here, but let's see if he decides to draw 7 now. Yeah, he doesn't even. Yeah, he doesn't even want to give Joe the opportunity to kind of do anything on his turn.
He's going down to 10.
Here's the question: does Joe try to Swords to Plowshare it now, and he decides not to?
So you see a Spell Pierce there, a Sneak Attack, another copy of Emrakul, a couple of copies of Lotus Petal, another Force Will too. That might be all that Todd needs here. He's going to play Lotus Petal. He can put the other one out there as well. Now, these are important simply for playing around a card like Flusterstorm. So that's that's kind of key at this point, because if we have a little bit of counter battle, he might be able to pay.
Yeah.
For stuff like that.
So pretty good hand here for Todd. He's got the Sneak Attack, and he also has double copy of Spell Pierce and 2 Force of Wills here. So he could pretty much deal with anything that Joe decides to throw at him next turn, and then he could potentially just kill him with the Sneak Attack and an Emrakul on the following turn.
Thomas Herzog does win game number 1 over Manaless Dredge. We felt like this would be a pretty tough one for Geo Thornton to be able to win, just because Herzog has many, many ways to interact with Manaless Dredge. Thalia is very, very hard for him to beat as well.
Yeah, Thalia, Deathrite, Gaddock Teeg, Scavenging Ooze. It's not going to get better from after board.
Riley Curran up a game against Matthew Hoey as well. Elves up a game over Rug Delver. We thought that might be the case, especially with Riley, the 3 seed, on the play.
So Joe Bernal did draw that Flusterstorm that we were talking about. So he has Swords to Plowshare, Flusterstorm, and Jace the Mind Sculptor, along with several other lands in his hand. So Flusterstorm definitely makes it a little interesting here. I still think Todd might have enough ways to kind of deal with that, but let's see here what Joe decides to do.
Joe going to start by playing an island. Going to go reaching for the mana. Looks like he may go. I was expecting to see 4 mana be tapped here.
Is he just going to cast a second True Name here? I don't think that's going to be able to erase a Grizzlebrand.
Very few things can.
Yeah, so, but he might think that he's in a position where even if I do plow this Grizzlebrand, he's just going to, Todd's going to go up to 14, and he just drew a full grip, so I'm probably in pretty rough shape, but I think you have to still lead with Plowshares.
The interesting thing here is that if he leads with True Name, that gives him another spell for Flusterstorm. So we can go True Name Swords and have a Flusterstorm battle.
Yeah, but I think Todd's okay with that because he has double Spell Pierce. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
He might just he wants to try to maybe fuel his Flusterstorm. The only problem is that you don't play around Spell Pierce that way.
There is Force of Will, removing Spell Pierce on the swords.
And plus, you don't get the opportunity to cast a Jace either. I think you want to just try to get a Jace to resolve here.
And so it looks like swords will get countered. Again, those Lotus Petals are actually pretty important because they're providing mana to play around Flusterstorm. Now it looks like Joe's going to go with True Name Nemesis.
Todd's like, sure.
That's actually kind of important, right? Because what's going to happen here is Todd's going to attack with Gristlebrand, and he's going to gain 7. Looks like he might be casting Show and Tell here, so never mind. This is when things get real ugly. I was going to say he gains 7, and then he can't actually draw 7. But now that he's casting Show and Tell and has the ability to put Emrakul in play, all of this is just not going to matter, as there is Emrakul. The tag team champions of the world are going to come across and take care of Joe Bernal. So Todd Anderson's going to win game number 1 here over Joe Bernal. Sneak and Show up a game over Esper Stoneblade.
Oh yeah, Bernal's line definitely made sense. Where he's like, okay, well, I knew he drew 7 cards, but there's a good chance he just didn't get an Emrakul or something. So I'm just going to force the issue where like you're not going to be able to draw any more cards with Grizzlebrand, or my guys will kill you.
Yep.
So it definitely makes sense. Oh, the only thing I will say though is that line only works if you know Todd's going to pitch a card to Force of Will and go down to 6. Because if he's at 7, that line doesn't work.
That's
so
true.
I'm still not quite sold on that line. I understand what his thought process was, but I still think maybe Jace might be the better play there. But either way, Todd was in a position to win that game no matter what.
Trivia, 3 months. He's got the rules. I've got the question. Take it away.
Okay, so we're going to give out, we do this between every round here. We're going to give out 3 months of Star City Games Premium. All you have to do is tweet us the answer to the trivia question that Cedric Phillips will give you. Tweet us at SCG Live with the hashtag SCG Premium, and we'll announce the winner after this round. And make sure you follow us at SCG Live so we can give you your prize.
This one's pretty easy if you've been following broadcast most of the day, honestly. Todd Anderson up a game now over Joe Bernal. He's been having a really, really good tournament. Went 7-0, 7-0-2 in the Swiss. Started off 7-0, double drew into the top 8. The question for you guys is, how many games has Todd lost today? And if you can name that number of games that Todd has lost today playing Sneak and Show, hashtag your answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and we will announce the winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round.
That's one of the harder questions I think that you've ever asked.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty tough one.
Yeah.
I don't think I can even answer it.
Oh, come on. Come on. We're going to bring it back to the match. We're going to take a look at the sideboards here. Now, we talked about Bernal's hand, and, like, his keep was it was kind of mediocre, but I think part of the reason for that is because I think he feels like his game one matchup is so poor, and he needs to be able to turn around things. And you can see in his sideboard, he's got some real ways to do that. 4 Thoughtseize, 3 Swan Song, 2 Surgical Extractions, and Enlightened Tutor, Rest in Peace, and Engineered Play, a Back to Basics, and 2 copies of Pithing Needle. You got to like the options here.
Yeah, those bottom 7 cards are really appealing to me in this matchup. 4 Thoughtseize, 3 Swan Song. That's awesome. Even a card like Surgical Extraction, I could see coming in just because he has so many dead cards in his main deck. Enlightened Tutor, well, Enlightened Tutor, not really going to need it for this matchup, but obviously 2 copies of Pithing Needle, I kind of like that card too because it kind of shuts off Todd's option of casting Show and Tell just to put a Sneak Attack in play because then Joe can just put the Pithing Needle into play and then name Sneak Attack. So a lot of options here for Joe. I could see him bringing up upwards of 11 cards in this particular matchup. So pretty good effective sideboard for him. And he has obviously plenty of cards in his main deck they can board out. You know, obviously Supreme Verdict, although it could potentially be good, not the best. Definitely the Engineer Explosives are coming out though. And same thing with probably the Lingering Souls as well. So plenty of options for Joe here. On Todd's side though, I think Todd probably played this matchup a lot, and he definitely knows what he has to do in this sideboard.
Yeah, I mean, I like Boseiju to be able to force through, especially when you know your opponent has counter spells. Like they're going to bring in Swan Song.
Yeah.
Swan Song's good against both parts of your combo. Now, of course, you can't Boseiju through a Sneak Attack, but you can Boseiju through a Show and Tell. Through the Breach if he wants additional effects. Swan Songs if he wants to try to win a counter war. You've got E-Truth. You've got Blood Moon, which is poor against Joe and all his basics. Cage isn't too good either. You know, Todd displayed some patience in that game. I'm not sure if he's able to display patience in this particular next couple of games, simply because, you know, the longer he waits against Bernal, in the game 1, it doesn't get much worse because Todd has access to the deck list, so he knows exactly how bad things can get, which is, you know, like basically Force of Will, Jade, Supreme Verdict, that's really about it. The longer you wait here against Bernal, that means he's working his way into Thoughtseize, Swan Song, Snapcaster Mage for those effects, Pithing Needle to be able to shut down Sneak Attack, so, you know, I wouldn't be interested in playing a terribly long game now.
Yeah, at this point you have to, if you're Todd, I think you almost have to try to just take your chances really early. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Todd just pulled the trigger on a turn 2 Show and Tell, even though there are plenty of cards he has to fight against. He does have Gataxian Probe, which kind of helps that situation out a lot. But really, Through the Breach is probably his most effective card here. It allows him to put a card into play, and he could even do it instant speed at the end of Joe's turn if he wants to draw cards off Grizzlebrand. And Boseiju is obviously really huge as well. So because Joe doesn't have Caracas, he doesn't have to worry about Caracas. He doesn't have to worry about card about like Humility. You know, you've seen some Esper Blade players play that card. He really just has to worry about Permission and then cards that attack your hand like Thoughtseize. Pithing Needle can be problematic, but it isn't the worst card in the world. Basically just turns off Sneak Attack, potentially turns off Grizzlebrand as well, but ultimately it really comes down to whether or not Joe is able to just Thoughtseize and counter a bunch of spells. The question is, though, is he going to have enough of a clock to take advantage of that? Ideally, you want to see Joe go turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Stoneforge, turn 3 Snapcaster Thoughtseize. That's the kind of start that Joe really wants for this game.
That's a start that's really hard to beat.
It's hard to beat, yeah. It's effectively just 3 cards, and Todd might just crumble to those 3 cards.
Again, other matchups, Riley Curran up a game with Combo Elves over Matthew Hoey, playing Rug Delver. That's our 3 versus 6. Other side, Thomas Herzog, our 7, up a game against Geo Thornton, our 2. Herzog playing Maverick, Geo Thornton playing Manaless Dredge. Of course, Herzog has a lot of ways to interact with him. Thalia, Deathrite Shaman, some things after sideboard as well. Seems like a really difficult matchup there for Geo. See if he's able to overcome that. Winner of the Herzog match will play the winner of the Curran versus Hoey match. On the other side of the bracket here, Greg Mueller still battling out with Stephen Mann. Mueller playing Bug Delver, Mann playing Rug Delver. Winner of that match will play the winner of this match between Anderson and Bernal.
So far, all our predictions have come true.
Thus far, don't get cocky. Don't get cocky. Long way to go. We have plenty of time to embarrass ourselves.
So both players deciding if they want to keep their opening 7. Joe Bernal, he has the choice first because he lost game 1. Looks like he's going to keep. And Todd Anderson, wow,
Jeez.
that is not a lot of mana, although he does have turn 1 show
He
and
has
tell.
turn 1 show and tell with the Gristlebrand. He doesn't have counter backup. He actually has turn 1. See, this is interesting because like he has turn 1 show and tell where you can put Gristlebrand in play, or he can just say, well, I'm just going to stop talking because the Thoughtseize has been cast. He could put Sneak Attack in play too.
So suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, like this is a snap keep every time.
Yeah.
But I mean, 'cause
And
this
it's
is just
still,
a great hand.
it's really still not that bad. If he top decks a land, like an island or a volcanic island or a sack land, he can still cast Brainstorm. It's still a really, really good hand. So it's just pretty awkward if he doesn't draw land here. Obviously, Joe probably has to take show and tell, although it looks like he does have a Forcible in his hand, so he might just take, he might take the, I don't know, what do you take here? Maybe you take the Lotus Petal and try to get lucky here because he has a Forcible.
I thought about it, but I don't even like that. Trying to take the Lotus Petal, I don't love that.
Oh, wow. He's got a really good hand there. He's got Pithing Needle and Forcible along with the Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, blue card, yeah, his 2 forces.
I don't think he has another land, though. That's the thing.
Still, I mean, still
Still,
easy
yeah.
to keep, yeah.
Really good hand still. So Joe Bernal thinking about what he wants to take here. Yeah, Lotus Petal is probably the riskiest card here. Probably Grizzlebrand is your safest bet, simply because he has both Show and Tell and Sneak Attack. So if you take one of them, there's still a good chance that Grizzlebrand enter play. Whether or not you want to bait Todd into just going for Show and Tell, that remains to be seen. Because theoretically, Joe could just take the Sneak Attack and try to bait Todd into just casting turn 1 Show and Tell. But Todd seems too smart for that. Like, I don't think he's going to fall for that.
Yeah. All right, I'll let you have Show and Tell. All right, I'll cast it. All right, I'll counter it.
You have to sell it pretty hard. You'd be like, oh, I made a mistake. Can I take it back, please? Oh, no. Oh, well.
Yeah, so I think that, there's, like, if he leaves him with Show and Tell, there's no way Todd's going to cast Show and Tell on turn 1. And the other thing, too, is he's going to take Lotus Petal. By leaving with Show and Tell, that gives Todd, like, a game plan to develop around.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of actually like taking Show and Tell. Okay. There's no way.
Oh, wow. This is so awesome.
There's no way you think this is going to resolve, right?
I don't know. Maybe, like, if Joe takes the Sneak Attack, I would say, obviously Todd figures it out. But because he took the Lotus Petal, maybe that kind of telegraphs, okay, maybe he's just trying to keep me off of blue. It doesn't necessarily telegraph that, okay, I have a force to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
But either way, though, Todd's still okay. If he just needs to draw land. He really just needs to draw land. He still has a Sneak Attack. He still has a Grizzlebrand. So that's why taking the Lotus Petal was a really risky play.
Yeah, the needle, of course, is naming Sneak Attack. That's in play. Joe picked up a backup needle for the turn. Anderson draws a copy of Through the Breach and just has to pass the turn back here.
Wow. So Joe could have needled the Sneak Attack. So still in pretty good shape here. Again, if Todd draws a land, he has multiple copies of Brainstorm. He can shuffle away that Sneak Attack potentially, and he just drew a Through the Breach. So
yeah. So I mean, Sneak Attack is locked away right now. And the second one, we'll see if he wants to name.
This has to name Grizzlebrand probably, right? That's really good. Now suddenly Todd's just left with a 7/7 lifelinker.
I mean, it's that or a redundant name on Sneak Attack, since the first one's on Sneak. So you can name it again.
The only question is, did Todd bring in the Echoing Truth? Like if his answer to Pride Needle is Echoing Truth, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If it's Vandal Blast, it probably doesn't matter either because he could just overload it.
Yeah.
So I think Grizzlebrand, since he has a Grizzlebrand, naming Grizzlebrand really is great because if you can't draw cards with it, then just Through the Breaching it really doesn't matter anymore. You're like, all right, fine, I'll take 7. You gain 7, big deal. You're not drawing 7 cards. Looks like Joe is debating on what he wants to name here.
He is in the old Tankaroo. He's writing something down.
That looks like a G. I don't know. Yeah, he does name Grizzlebrand. And Todd draws yet another Sneak Attack. Still no mana. And it looks like there's an island for Joe, so he can actually get a threat into play if he has. Oh no, maybe he doesn't have an island.
He doesn't have the white mana to cast Stoneforge right now.
No, but I think he has a True Name Nemesis, right?
But there's that. Can't cast it because there's another blue.
Oh no, it's a Swan Song. Yeah. Okay, so wow, really good hand here. Stoneforge comes into play. That finally gives him an opportunity to get some kind of threat in play.
I think Todd is considering casting a Brainstorm response, maybe try to find a Force of Will for this to try to have some sort of counter war. Or at least considering the ramifications of it. Or at least bluffing like he has a Force of Will.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, that's fine. So.
Of course, Joe knows exactly what's in Todd's hand because of the Thoughtseize. The only card he doesn't know about is Through the Breach. Yeah.
For the most part, he knows those contents. He doesn't know about the second Sneak Attack.
Yeah, he doesn't know about one Sneak Attack, one Through the Breach. So there, Batter Skull is found with Stoneforge Mystic. And again, Todd still has plenty of time because Joe's not really like, Joe's deck can't put on that much pressure. Obviously, 5 a turn is a lot, but it's still going to be like a 4-turn clock roughly, depending on whether or not Todd uses his Ancient Tomb again.
So let's see what Anderson's going to draw, if he even wants to cast Brainstorm now or if he wants to wait. Looks like he's going to take a draw first. It's a copy of Ancient Tomb.
That was rough. I think he still has to cast. I think he has to cast Brainstorm here, try to find the sack land, get rid of some of those sneak attacks.
Yeah, because they're so bad. He's going to sacrifice this right now and cast a Brainstorm. See if he wants to search up an island or if he wants to go with non-basics. He's going to go with non-basics. They're actually relatively safe in this matchup because Joe does not have any copies of Wasteland.
Yeah, back to basics is the only card he has to worry about, and it's unlikely that Joe boarded it in this matchup.
So Brainstorm will go on the stack. Joe, of course, does have a Swan Song in his hand. Be surprised if he casts that on this. We'll see, though.
Yeah, if Joe didn't know Todd's hand, it's possible, but he knows that Todd has another copy of Brainstorm, so not sure it's worth it here.
Delta Strand and a Volcanic. So that'll give Todd some lands to work with. His draw for the turn was Ancient Tomb as well. So now he's got plenty of mana. Wants to figure out what to put back. You have to imagine it's going to be at least one sneak attack, potentially two. The one thing here, though, is that he's got a bunch of lands in his hand now, so I can certainly see sneak attack plus a land going back.
Yeah, sneak attack plus a land, and we still don't know how many answers he has to Python Needle left in his deck. He could have the Echoing Truth. He could have boarded in the Echoing Truth. He could have boarded in Vandal Blast potentially. It does deal with equipment too, so wouldn't be surprised if that's still in his deck. So not a bad start there for Todd to come back out of this. He has the Flooded Strand. He could sack it to shuffle those cards away. Although he's going to be fighting through both Batterskull and now Joe has, I think, a Flusterstorm and a Swan Song. So a lot of counter spells here for Joe.
Yeah, again, this is part of the reason I think that Joe kept the hand that he did in game one, because obviously that hand wasn't great. A couple copies of Shenanigans, this is Jason, really not any interaction. But at the same time, like, the matchup is so bad for him game one that he just has to try to win game two and game three. And the matchup gets very good from after sideboard.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason that we saw him keep kind of the loose hand in game one, because the chances of him winning game one are so small. Anderson going to draw a card here, another copy of Gristlebrand. He's looking for a card like Emrakul right now.
So
I think he'd be happy through the Breaching Emrakul.
Yeah, I wonder if you're Todd, do you just cast Sneak Attack here?
I think a safe place to start is Brainstorm.
So yeah, it looks like he's going to Brainstorm here, and this will resolve.
Volcanic, Island, Show and Tell. It's not that exciting, but I mean, just Show and Telling in a 7/7 is perfectly reasonable play.
Oh yes, it's still fine. The question is, can he fight through the counter spells? That's the thing. He could actually try to bait Joe by just casting through the breach first, and then try to resolve the Show and Tell the other.
See, now this becomes like a game of gamesmanship, right? Where it's just like, all right, I'm going to start casting. I'll cast through the breach. You do want to counter this? If you do, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool too. Same thing can be said with Show and Tell. Now you start just offering up your cards because you have a few of that effect, and see if your opponent wants to counter them or not. So you can, because you have to work your way through this counter magic eventually. It's not like Todd has a card like Orange Chant or something.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I want to see if he's going to cast Sneak Attack, because that kind of puts a lot of pressure on Joe. Obviously, you have a Pithing Needle in play, but does Todd have the answer? Does he have a Vandal Blast? Does he have an Echoing Truth? You just don't know. So maybe you just have to counter the Sneak Attack, because obviously countering a Sneak Attack is a lot easier than countering a 2-mana or a 1-mana spell.
Yep.
So that'll be an interesting turn for Todd next turn. Once he has 4 mana, he doesn't have to tap the Ancient Tomb. But it looks like he's going to just do it this turn.
Yeah, he'll take a little damage to put the Sneak Attack in play.
And I like this play a lot. It kind of puts pressure on Joe to make the correct play here. If Todd can get rid of that Swan Song or the Flusterstorm, that's huge.
Yeah, let's not forget, Flusterstorm can't take care of this. It only takes care of instant and sorcery, so now it's just Swan Song this or not, and Joe just says, I don't have any interest in Swan Songing this, so I'm just going to put my Batterskull into play and just start getting some damage dealt.
Yeah, so Joe wisely lets it resolve, and he just figures, all right, well, I have the needle in play. I'm going to let that deal with it. And if you draw an answer, fine.
Yeah, and at least we can have a battle over the answer. Like, if we draw Vandal Blast, all right, I'll Swan Song it. Or we'll have a fight over this. You see Batterskull going to come into play, Living Weapon trigger on the stack. There is a token. We'll have a Brian Bronwyn token out there in just a moment. BBD wants his camera time. Or doesn't he? Well, we'll get one out there in a minute for you guys at home. Bernal's going to draw a card. Looks like he picked up another land.
All right, so he's going to be able to attack for 5 here, dropping Todd to 8. Todd still has chances here, but he's going to really need to draw a permission spell here. The problem is Flusterstorm is going to be very difficult to fight through.
This is an island. This is an attack for 5. Anderson's going to go down to 8. Bernal's going to go up to 20. The important part here, I mean, Bernal's working away at Anderson's life total, but the Ancient Tombs, the damage that deals is certainly going to add up here. However, Anderson gonna draw another copy of Show and Tell. Gonna try to cast one with 3 mana available.
All right, so he's going to have to cast Swan Song if he wants to counter this, because Flusterstorm would only be for 2 copies. And that's
Swan
great.
Song.
It gives him a chump blocker.
Yeah. That'll work. Anderson says, okay, that's countered. The big question here is, does he cast the other Show and Tell now in his hand?
Yeah, that we know won't resolve, unfortunately, but...
Because if he had waited, Flusterstorm would not get the job done. And Todd has to take 2 to do that, so he goes down to 6 before passing the turn back over to Bernal, who will draw a card. Coming into the red zone, are we?
Yeah, so...
Stoneforge Mystic wanted to. It's not going to come into Derek Sheets, though. There's a block from Todd. He's going to stay at 6. Bernal's going to go up to 24. Bernal reaching for the mana. Got a spell to cast, maybe?
So Todd's still in this. He can cast... If Through the Breach resolves, he can get a Grizzlebrand into play. Okay, so no cards left in his hand. If Grizzlebrand can come into play, gain him some life. Give him a little bit more time. Unfortunately, he won't be able to draw cards.
There's a Lotus Petal. Going to pass the turn back. And Through the Breach is going to be probably on blocking duty here. Gain himself some life.
Yeah, it'll be able to deal with the token for a turn. Joe will be able to bounce the Batter Skull and just replay it. But, yeah, Todd's going to be able to fog the attack and gain some life. So buy himself more turn. And he still has another copy of Grizzlebrand in his hand.
Actually, realistically, he probably won't even gain any life, right? Because Joe will attack, Todd will cast Through the Breach, and he can just bounce it before damage.
Yeah.
So Todd, I thought Todd was going to go to 13. He's actually probably just going to stay at 6. Assuming Joe makes that play. Let's see what Joe drew here.
Wow.
Okay. That's pretty good. Here's a Jace. Up to 3. I guess things changed. This is actually really interesting. Things change a little bit now, because now what happens is that Todd may just take this damage, go down to 1, cast Through the Breach on the end step to kill the Jace and gain 7.
Yeah, I think if now, given this situation, I think Todd has to rethink what his plan is. The question is, what is Joe going to do with this? What is Joe going to do with the Jace the Mind Sculptor? Is he going to brainstorm, or is he going to Fate Seal? Fate Seal is reasonable, but I think you want to just brainstorm in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, both are reasonable. Jace management is pretty tough.
The real question is, should he have attacked first, though? That's really the question.
Now, there wants some Oracle text here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's on Through the Breach here. When do you have to sacrifice a creature? You sacrifice the creature at the end of turn. So, one thing you can do with Through the Breach is you can clear the end of turn triggers, cast Through the Breach, and then you'll get to keep it until your turn.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about Through the Breach. It allows you to cast it at the end of the turn and get those fatties into play and attack with it. So Joe's definitely thinking about that. Looks like Todd's going to take 5 here, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And it looks like, okay, he's going to cast Through the Breach to be able to try to block. So he's going to use this. Yeah, get in front of Batter Skull right away. Now he actually gets to get the life where he wasn't going to get it before.
Yeah, he's going to get the life, and Todd isn't going to be able to bounce it this turn, so pretty good.
Now, of course, even though Todd does gain the 7 life there and ends up taking 1 from the Stoneforge, so he ends up gaining 6 overall, sitting at 12 and Bernal sitting at 28. Even though that's, an exchange he's probably happy with, the bigger issue here is the chase that's in play. And how can you go about beating it? Because now, Show and Tell is no longer an out. Whereas Show and Tell, on this previous turn where he was trying to resolve Show and Tell, ran into a Swan Song and Flusterstorm. If Show and Tell resolved, it's like, okay, now Joe's in trouble. Well, now that Joe has a Jace, Todd, if he draws his 4 Show and Tell, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, good news for Todd. Joe put the card on the bottom, so he has a live out. If Joe kept the card on top, then you're in probably bad shape. But now he has a live draw here. Unfortunately, it is just a City of Traders here.
And Joe's going to be able to control this for the most part for the rest of the game due to Jace's Fate Seal. Bernal going to tap some mana here, maybe cast a spell right away. We'll see. Going to actually brainstorm. So Thoughtseize, Flusterstorm among the cards he's found. You can just definitely tell how much better things do get after Sideboard for Joe. Looks like it's a Surgical Extraction as well. There is a Thoughtseize. Yeah, Surgical is the card that's in his hand. Todd going to discard Grizzlebrand, show a City of Traders.
Yeah, so now you can actually extract all the Grizzlebrands out of the deck if he wants to.
I wouldn't be surprised if Todd concedes this Surgical Extraction. Because you don't want your opponent to get the information. Like, he's pretty dead.
I would just concede here. Don't give him your deck. Don't show him what your Sideboard strategy is.
I know that I know that both players have access to each other's deck list.
Yeah.
So, you're able to use information that way. But, Joe gets to get a pretty healthy look on what's going on. And if I was Joe, I would take like a mental photo
Yeah.
on what my opponent's done here after
You
sideboard.
see a Vandal Blast there.
Because, realistically, how does Todd go about winning this game? It seems like it's very, very difficult to do now.
Yeah, you know about the Vandal Blast, but you don't have a fatty in your hand right now. Granted, you do have a couple of extra turns, but you're dealing with the Jason Mind Sculpt that could potentially Fate Seal you each turn too. So yeah, if I mean, I don't know. I think it's probably fair to keep playing because you do have you have a small percentage chance of winning here.
I mean, if he does draw Vandal Blast this turn, it's completely busted.
Yeah,
I will say that.
If Vandal Blast is drawn this turn, it's amazing.
Emrakul, not so much. But if he did draw Vandal Blast and he overloaded it this turn, killed 2 needles and a Battered Skull, that would have been ridiculous.
Yeah, so basically if he draws the Vandal Blast next turn, he has to dodge a Fate Seal, though. But it looks like Joe's going to Brainstorm.
2, 3. So there's 3 lands and a Flusterstorm is what Bernal's
All right,
looking at.
so far so good. Todd's going to fold a 2 here. But even still, even if he gets an Emrakul in play, Joe has plenty of permanents to sack to it. So yeah, I don't think Todd has any outs here.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly few and far between. He's going to cast upon her, take a look at a Sneak, and Emrakul, and a Spell Pierce, and he's going to pick up his deck to shuffle those away. I thought he might pick up the game, but again, if he does find Vandal Blast, it does give him... Actually, no, I take it back. Vandal Blast actually doesn't do it now either. Because
Not now, yeah.
No, mostly because he has City of Traders in his hand, so he can overload it, but then Joe can just pick up Battered Skull and put it back into play because Stoneforge is untapped. So Todd going to cast a Brainstorm
And
here.
plus Todd is at 2, so he can actually use the Ancient Tomb. So.
Well, he's got a City of Traders in his hand.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he could have. He did draw a copy of Through the Breach, but again, that's not really going to do anything. I think Todd's going to take a look at his hand, realize that, and pack it up. So Joe Bernal's going to win game number 2 here over Todd Anderson. Esper Stoneblade ties it up against Sneak and Show. As we do have another update for you guys, Thomas Herzog does win with Maverick. He is moving on, defeats Geo Thornton 2-0. Didn't think Malice Dredge would be able to get out of that one alive, and it certainly did not. Maverick going to play the winner of Riley Curran and Matthew Hoey. Curran again up a game there with Combo Elves against Hoey playing Rug Delver. Don't know if a lot changes here after sideboard. Again, we mentioned just the time for Anderson to maybe concede in that situation. And I think once I get surgical, I would have conceded there because I think the likelihood of me winning is small. Yes, there is something that could happen. So, maybe you can make the argument, well, it's an elimination round. You just play.
Yeah, I think you just play simply because he knows your deck list and your sideboard strategy isn't that complicated. You know what I mean? It's not like you're doing something that tricky. So I think Todd's like, all right, even though I only have maybe like a 5% chance of winning here, me giving up what my sideboard strategy here is worth it. It's worth just that 5% because it's really not that valuable of a strategy. It's not like he's doing a total transformational sideboard here.
Riley Curran does win this match over Matthew Hoey, so he's moving on to play against Thomas Herzog. Combo Elves moving on. Seems like that would probably be a good matchup for Riley. Combo Elves versus Maverick. We'll see, though.
Combo Elves, I don't know. He does have copies of Zealous Persecution and Gaddock Teague's obviously good against Natural Order and Green Sun Zenith. So that's going to be an interesting match. I hope we get to see that one. He also has Etherstorm Candace as well, so pretty cool. But this matchup, we kind of thought that Joe was going to have a much better game after board. Although now Todd's going to be on the play, and we kind of saw he had the potential to go turn 1 show and tell in game 2 here. So being on the play, that's the thing about show and tell. It's like it doesn't matter how many good sideboard cards you have. They can kill you. They can effectively get an Emrakul into play on turn 1, and you could have a handful of Thought Seizes, Flusterstorm, Spell Pierces. It just doesn't matter. You're not even going to get a land into play. So that's one of the things that people love about show and tell. If you're playing it, if you're playing against it, obviously not so much.
We're going to see how Game 3 does break here. Again, the other match here, Greg Mueller, Stephen Mann. We'll see if we can get an update on that for you guys. Bug Delver versus Rug Delver. Mann the 8, Mueller the 1. Let's see exactly what's going to happen there. Again, Mann already won a Legacy Open during Season 1 when we were in Atlanta earlier this year. Also Pro Tour Top 8 competitor, Pro Tour Gatecrash. Very skilled player, especially when he is playing Rug. His loss came to Matthew Hoey in this tournament. Hoey's no longer in the tournament, so see if he can keep putting together some wins. Maybe have 2 titles this year for Mann.
Yeah, are we going to have both Rug Delver decks eliminated from the top 8?
I don't know. We're going to see. Maverick and Elves already through.
That's the only deck that we have a multiple copies of. We have
just
7
two
unique
rogues.
decks in this top 8.
Three Delver decks, of course, though.
Well,
2 Rogue, 1
3
Rogue.
Delver, yes.
I mean, that seems like just par for the course nowadays.
But even the Rogue or Delver decks are pretty different.
Yeah.
One doesn't even have stifles.
Good. I don't like that card.
Todd Anderson trying to one-up his car mate CVM by actually winning the Open, not just falling in the top 4.
Todd has to shave if he wins.
I think Todd is just too attached to his beard, his chin beard.
Yeah, the stubble.
It's his signature look.
Between that and the mohawk, I mean, that's Todd Anderson right there. It's kind of like a chohawk, actually.
It's a chohawk, yeah. Hot Sauce Games versus Star City Games, the epic battle.
It really is. Give me some of that hot sauce.
So Joe Bernal, 2 games in a row now, has kept pretty questionable hands. It's paid off one time for him.
I think that hand is a snap keep.
I don't know. I mean, it's good. It's definitely good.
I think that's.
I think his first hand was pretty bad though.
Yeah, I mean, the game 1, I think the handicap was bad, but I don't think he has a choice.
But I have a different opinion. I think if your game 1 is that bad, I think you be aggressive, like with your mulligans. You try to get the good half of your deck. Like you try to get the Flusterstorms, Force of Wills, because game 1 you could go like turn 2 Stoneforge and your hand is just Flusterstorms, Force of Wills.
Okay.
You could get those types of draws.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe just mulligan aggressively, hope for the best.
Yeah, if your matchup is that bad, I mean, that's how I would play it. But we're in here in game 2 though. It looks like both players kept their 7, and I think Todd does have an answer to Pithing Needle and Echoing Truth in his hand, and now he's just trying to find the rest of his combo.
You're going to go brainstorm here. You saw him pick up some double lands there. Ancient Tomb, City of Traders, then Gristlebrand. Echoing Truth is a card that he's moved towards the front. Maybe he wants to put that one back. Again, he has not played a land yet this turn. So
I think this is the end of Joe's turn, is it?
No,
or
this is immediately on his turn.
Oh, okay. And yeah, it looks like he has Vandal Blast and Echoing Truth, so he has both of those answers now.
No needles here. Not going to get the job done this go around.
Two copies of City Traders. Looks like both of those are going to go on top of his library here.
The other red card is Sneak Attack right now, too.
Yeah, he's got Sneak Attack. Does he have any permission? I know he's got Grizzlebrand. He's got Sneak Attack. It looks like he might have a Spell Pierce in the back there. Can't quite make it out, though.
Bernal going to draw a card. Going to play a Flooded Strand, just pass the turn back. No real clock here from Bernal, but I don't expect him to actually put a clock on pretty quickly, so.
Yeah, it looks like Bernal has Force of Will and a Swan Song, but that Swan Song is the only other blue card I believe he has. So technically only be able to counter 1 spell a turn, potentially. Todd kind of brainstorm locked here. He knows he doesn't have a sack land and he has another City of Traders on top of his library. So kind of color screwed a little bit here. He ideally wants to be able to cast Sneak Attack with Spell Pierce backup. Unfortunately, he only has access to 1 colored source of mana currently.
Well, he's moving in. Tap some mana. With 1 mana available, he will cast a Sneak Attack. 1 colorless mana available. That's the important part. Bernal going to go through his hand here. Can Swan Song this if he wants to. It would give Anderson a 2/2 flyer, or he can just Force of Will it. Looks like he may Swan Song it.
Yep.
What this is just simply saying is that, okay, I don't care about the 2/2 that you have in play.
And Joe can actually surgical extract the Sneak Attacks away, too, if he wants to. Make sure he doesn't have to worry about that card for the rest of the game.
Can probably be pretty confident that he can beat Show and Tell. There's Surgical. Maybe. Now there's Surgical. So funny thing here is, yeah, Todd's going to lose his Sneak Attacks. And there's the Grip. You see the Vandal Blast, the Echoing Truth, 2 copies of Gristlebrand, and then a Spell Pierce. The thing that's good for Todd here is that he gets to shuffle his deck.
Yeah.
So he's going to draw a City of Traders.
Does not want to draw that second copy of City of Traders.
So if you're looking for positives, if you're rooting for Todd at home, he gets to shuffle and not draw that City of Traders.
Joe did draw a Snapcaster for the turn, so he has the option of either pitching that to his Force of Will to counterspell, or he could just cast it and recast the Snap targeting the Swan Song, and then cast Swan Song targeting, potential Show and Tell or Through the Breach, something like that.
Yep.
But the good news for Todd is that he does have a Spell Pierce in his hand, and he doesn't have to really contend with that much more permission from Joe. Joe does have that Force of Will. He's got a Snapcaster, but that's basically it. And he doesn't really have a clock on Todd right now. So if Todd can draw like another blue source of mana, and then maybe just even any of the combo pieces, either Through the Breach or Show and Tell, I think he's pretty good shape here. Let's see what Todd. Yeah, Todd's just shuffling for the turn here. Surgical Extraction takes out all the sneak attacks from the deck. Joe now has perfect information of Todd's hand. He knows he has both Echoing Truth and Vandal Blast, along with the Spell Pierce and Double Grizzlebrand.
Yeah, nothing too crazy in Todd's hand right now. You know, if you draw Show and Tell, so be it. You know, it's fine. It's not all that exciting. He can work it through a Flusterstorm because he's got enough mana. But Todd's gonna have to cobble together some draws, especially because he doesn't have Show and Tell anymore. Maybe have to rely on something like a Through the Breach to try to get the job done here. Bernal goes reaching for mana, figuring out which fetch line he wants to sacrifice. Will it be Strand or the Delta? And he's going to go with Stoneforge Mystic, not to, knowing that's going to resolve. So he'll shortcut here and search for an equipment. Wants to consult the grip. He's got another Flooded Strand in his hand. He'll shuffle there. Maybe present the deck. I don't know if he's going to shortcut or not. He might just have all the equipment in his hand already, too.
So does he have another blue card?
I'm not sure.
Oh, he has the Snapcaster. So he has Snapcaster Efficient Force. So I was going to say he had the potential to just cast Snapcaster here for Swan Song, but he has the Force of Will anyway. So.
Yeah. Todd says, I have a Vandal Blast, bro. Here's a Lotus Petal.
Doesn't have to play that just yet.
Oh, beatdowns. Ever heard of it?
Swing it in. Good luck beating the Swan. That Derek Sheets token. That is one good token.
It's a top
tier. By the way,
it's a top tier token. Miles better than my token.
Yeah, so Todd can kind of sandbag that Lotus Petal if he wants, but no, he's going to cast it.
Pass the turn back. Again, part of the reason that he plays that is just because of a card like Flusterstorm. Does not want to enter the Storm count on turn when he's trying to go off. Bernal draws his card for the turn. Again, he did not search for an equipment with the Stoneforge Mystic, so presumably that means that he already has the Batterskull, and you can see the Batterskull in his hand. Todd with the answer, though, in Vandal Blast.
Yeah, the key with that is as long as Joe is patient, though, he can actually put it into play and make sure he has 3 mana to bounce it.
Yeah, it's no rush. Here's an Echoing Truth. Todd kind of forcing some action. There you do see the sorcery that destroys target artifact.
Card's so good. As an Affinity player, I do not enjoy playing against that card. And Todd's been screaming about the merits of Vandal Blast. He said it's been very, very good for him. So we'll see if it helps him win this game, the deciding game here.
So if we ride the Swan to victory, it's going to be absurd.
It'll be epic if he rides the Swan to victory.
Oh. Because it's basically not safe for Bernal to put the Batterskull into play, which is basically a strategy right now. He needs to be able to draw some lands and do some work to get around that. And Joe is going to cast Stoneforge Mystic this turn. It doesn't look like Joe has a ton to do. He did pick up a copy of Pith Needle, but I mean, Todd obviously has the answer for that already with the Vandal Blast and the fact that he can overload Vandal Blast pretty easily right now.
Yeah, it looks like Joe still has a pretty good hand here. He's got the Batterskull, he's got a Force of Will, he's got Snapcaster Mage. It looks like he's another Blues card. I think it might be a True Name Nemesis. So Joe's still sitting pretty well here. He's just going to take time for him to kind of get that Batterskull into play in order for him to play around Vandal Blast.
Anderson picked up a copy of Spell Pierce. It's a slow clock, but it's not that slow of a clock, the Swan token?
Well, the real thing is, can you get Joe down to 7? Because if you can get him down to 7, that's kind of important because then all of a sudden, like a Through the Breach can just kill him in 1 turn. So that's kind of important for Todd. And it looks like he's 2 attacks away from doing that at least. But again, Joe has a lot of permission in his hand. So even though Todd has 2 copies of Spell Pierce, he just doesn't have a lot of colored mana. So it'll be interesting to see here whether or not Todd can navigate this one. Definitely not out of it, but it's definitely going to be a struggle. It's going to have to come down to whether or not Joe gets a little too overly aggressive with Batterskull, and Todd is able to kind of make him bounce it on his turn, tie up his mana, and then get Through the Breach to resolve.
Greg Mueller, Stephen Mann going to Game 3. Bug versus Rug Delver just got informed by Andrew Shroud, so we'll see what happens there. Winner of that match, again, plays the winner of this one. In comes the Swan again.
So it looks like Todd drew he does have a Polluted Delta. So he's going to play that, loses City of Traders. So now he has more colored mana. Let's see, Stoneforge is going to get activated. And there's that Batterskull.
It's not Bernal with 3 fetch lands in play, has necessary mana to pick up Batterskull and then replay it via Stoneforge Mystic. 9 to 17 in life totals, but that's going to change in a moment. Assuming that Bernal wants to attack. He does have to be wary of Through the Breach.
Yeah, Through the Breach has got to be concerned for him. But again, as long as Joe doesn't tie up all his mana here, he has a Force of Will. Yeah, so Joe, it looks like Joe's going to attack with both. If you're Todd, I think you want to counter it here. You want to cast Vandal Blast here.
Well, you can't cast it. I mean, it's a,
I'm sorry,
it's a sorcerer, yeah, so you can't do that.
So he's going to take 5 here, and now Joe has to figure out what he wants to do now.
There's another fetch. Jeez.
Is it Brainstorm? Oh, no, Pithing Needle.
Just a needle here.
He's not going to name Grizzlebrand. He knows that he has 2 Grizzlebrands in his hand. There's no more sneak attack to worry about. Obviously, that can get killed with an overloaded Vandal Blast. But again, I don't think Todd's probably going to overload Vandal Blast.
No,
He's probably going to spend 1 red
I think
mana.
it has to be 1 red mana to kill something here. This is interesting, forcing a little bit of action. I actually kind of like this play.
Yeah, this is a very interesting play here because what does Joe do? Does Joe actually pay 2?
Because what this does is, first of all, it makes him pay 2 mana, but he also makes him take 1 damage. He'll put him down at 12 if he wants to sacrifice a fetch land. And then Todd can overload Vandal Blast, which forces Joe to take 3 to pick up Batterskull. And then then there's like a delay on when Batterskull can actually come back down and start attacking again. So I actually kind of like this play because there's a real possibility that even though Joe has 5 mana in play, that Spell Pierce could counter this.
Yeah, very, very smart play here. Heads up play by Todd. Just knowing that Joe is under mana constraints. And yeah, with 4 sack lands, that's going to make things very interesting here from a lifetime perspective.
I think the more important thing here is that, there's no guarantee this is going to counter this or, what kind of action is going to have in the game. But this gives Joe the opportunity to outthink himself.
Yeah.
And Todd's just like, all right, I'm just casting a Spell Pierce. Like, do whatever you want.
The more pressure you can put on your opponent to make the wrong decision, the better. So that's why I like this from Todd, because you also have to figure Todd doesn't have that much mana in his side of the board. So what are the chances he's going to be able to cast a proactive spell and 2 Spell Pierces to kind of force it through? So try to get as much value as you can out of your Spell Pierces, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Bernal looks like he's going to go get an Underground, so you make it something different. But yeah, I mean, Spell Pierce isn't getting much better. He's going to go to Basic Swamp instead.
Yeah, interesting that he keeps going for basics. And does maybe suggest that he did bring in the
Back to Basics,
back to basics.
Yeah, sure.
Because really, I doubt he has to worry about Blood Moon.
Anderson going to search up a land here. I think he's going to Spell Pierce again.
Now this basically has to resolve, right? I mean, if you pay 2. Then you're exposing yourself to the overloaded Vandal Blast.
Yeah.
You do have a Force of Will, but you're tapping out, and there's too many cards that Todd could have that can kind of punish you for tapping out.
Yeah, I mean, you could just peel Show and Tell. It's a disaster.
Yeah, you don't have like a Jace the Mind Sculptor or anything like that. So, yep, that Spell Pierce does take care of it. And this is actually really great here for Todd because he could still tap out Joe by just casting Vandal Blast on the Batterskull and forcing him to tap it.
A Boseiju.
Wow, so that changes a lot too.
So the fun thing here is I wonder what happens if Todd just casts Vandal Blast, right? Like, it's very realistic for Bernal to go, okay, fine, sack my 3 fetch lands, go to 9, pick up my Batterskull, pass. Or does he Force of Will this with the blue card? And if he's Force of Willing this, it's like,
Well, that's what's great. He doesn't have any other counterspell in his hand. He can pitch the True Name Nemesis, and then he can cast Snapcaster Mage to get a Swan Song. But I think if you're Todd, you have to kind of put the pressure on him, Yeah, so I like this play a lot.
I like this a lot.
The worst possible, the best scenario if you're Todd is he just sacrifice 3 lands and then bounce it because you have the Boseiju. So you know that all that counterspells the counterspells aren't going to matter.
Yeah. And he doesn't, and of course, but Todd hasn't revealed that he has the Boseiju yet.
Yeah, so
no
really
reason to do that.
Could be really, really good for Todd here because Joe would end up going down to 9 by sacking all his lands, picking up the Batterskull, then drop to 7 from the attack, which means that a top deck through the breach would just win the game for Todd next turn. And this really sets back Joe a lot because he's going to have to pick up the Batterskull, and the Stoneforge Mystic is tapped. So he won't be able to replay it until the turn after. So we're talking about 2 turns before he can gain life from Batterskull.
And again, the thing that makes this so compelling to me is just again, Todd, I'm just casting Vandal Blast.
Yeah.
And you think about what this means as much as you want. You know, he's making the proactive decision and it's putting Joe's skill to the test. Are you just gonna let this die?
He might just have to let it die. Yeah.
If you let this die, this is a dream come true.
This is great for Todd if you just let it die.
Yeah.
I mean, and he might be thinking about it, but yep. So he's going to sack 3 lands. And I think it's fine for Joe to think about it because he does have a true name nemesis. So it's not like he doesn't have another way to attack Todd. So kind of letting it resolve might be the play that Todd just didn't expect. So I kind of would have liked that. Just because
I think he weighed that in his decision.
Yeah, I think he thought about it. So it looks like he decided that it was just better for him to crack it and just save the Batterskull, thinking that Todd doesn't really have anything.
Yeah, so he's going to pick up Batterskull. Germ Token's gone for right now. And now the great thing is Todd gets to attack for 2 here, put Bernal down to 7, and then kind of show up.
Yeah, that, Joe must hate that, seeing that.
This is getting really tough for Bernal. And I feel like Joe has been doing pretty good this game. There's a surgical off the top. He's been doing pretty good, but he's not all the way there yet. And he did have the opportunity to Force of Will on the early turn instead of casting Swan Song. And now, the Swan beats, they're slow, but they're steady.
Yeah, so let's see what Todd, so I still think that Joe has Todd on a 2-turn clock. So Todd basically has to draw this turn, I believe. Oh, no, he has probably another turn.
He's probably got another turn.
He's probably got 2 turns.
That Swan can block.
Yeah, so, well, the thing is, Joe's probably going to cast the True Name Nemesis, and then at the end of Todd's turn, put in the Batterskull. So then True Name can just wear the Batterskull if he wants and force it 2 turns from that. So effectively 3 turns from now, Todd would be dead.
Are we getting surgical? We are getting surgical.
Well, this would give Joe some more information as to what Todd's working with. I think he doesn't know one of the cards.
Well, you can target down there is the question.
Brainstorm's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
There's only 1 Vandal Blast, so that's not that. No reason to get the Echoing Truth.
You saw Joe pay the mana for this instead of going on alternate casting cost, because his life actually does matter right now. He's sitting at 7, does not want to go down to 5.
Yeah, the only reason I can see him not wanting to cast the True Name Nemesis is because he wants another blue card to pitch the Force of Will.
Gristle, Pierce. Not quite sure what card he took.
I would guess Brainstorm.
I would guess Brainstorm too. Yeah, and he does grab Brainstorm here. 2, 1 more probably.
Yep, there was. I saw him slide right by it.
I think he's just looking for it. There it goes.
You missed it again, buddy.
You'll find it.
There it is. So no Brainstorms left for Todd to go digging. So through the breach, show and tell, still going to be good for him here.
That's it. I mean, the sneaks are gone, so it's through the breach, show and tell.
Through the breach is ideal. I mean, obviously, through the breach is the card you really want here.
One, yeah.
Ponder's not bad either,
There's True Name with the mana available to activate Stoneforge. So, again, I think that Joe has, developed this nicely, everything that he's done here. He's just trying to fade draw steps.
Well, let's see here. If it is show and tell, is show and tell enough? I don't think show and tell would be enough because Joe will then put the Batterskull into play, and then he could just equip True Name Nemesis and attack for 7.
Yeah, and then Todd can attack for 7, and then we're like a bit of parity.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that would be necessarily good enough. Through the breach, obviously ideal. Let's see if Todd can get it. Ooh, that makes it interesting. That makes it interesting. Wait, are we going to see a force right here?
I would not be surprised if we see a force.
You got to snap force that. You got to snap force that. You know what the card is. You know what his hand is. Yeah.
What does this do? This says if I find a show and tell or a through the breach, this is not good news for you.
I think you have to force this. You know what his hand is. You know it's just Spell Pierce, double Curse around. And you can pay for the Spell Pierce too, because Todd has a Spell Pierce in his hand.
Todd would immediately spell pierce this.
Yeah, but Joe has 2 mana.
I understand. Like I'm saying, I think he would spell pierce this immediately, so the Batter Skull can't come in.
Yeah. Either way, I think he's still spell pierce. But if you're Joe, you have to force this, I think.
Yeah, there's spell pierce. Yeah, he's gonna pay.
All right, so at least you keep yourself alive for an extra turn.
Down. Joe went from 7 to 6, now 6 to 4. The increments might matter. That's a full turn cut off the clock because of Force of Will.
But if he has, I was gonna say if he draws a land, he could actually put Batter Skull into play and then equip.
Yep. Don't think he drew a land though.
But no, it doesn't look like he drew a land. It looks like he Thoughtseize.
Ugh, can't cast that.
Yeah, he can't cast that because that stupid swan. That darn swan. You'd love to be able to get rid of that Grizzlebrand.
All right, in we go again. And then he's just gonna hard cast Batter Skull.
Yeah, why not? You're out of gas.
He knows his hand. Pass the turn back.
All right, do you got it or not?
Presenting lethal.
I hope it's another Ponder. The Ponder is such the sweetest sweat. Oh.
It is a random action 2. Wow. That is going to do it. Joe Bernal is going to win this match over Todd Anderson. 2-1. Esper Stoneblade is moving on over Sneak and Show. Todd's first 2 game losses of the weekend.
Wow, great game.